Well, welcome back to Brilliant Fishing. We're here tonight with our inaugural podcast episode number 1, and we're going to talk about North Carolina mountain trout fishing. And I'm excited to be doing this tonight. I'm here with Nick and Sara Freeman, and you all are husband-wife team that run a guide service, and it's called Rivers and Ridges, or is it NC Rivers and Ridges?
Well, it's Rivers and Ridges. Technically, just because of internet, we go with NC Rivers and Ridges because Rivers and Ridges in Montana was taken, I believe.
Right, okay. For the same reason, I'm Brilliant Fishing NC instead of just Brilliant Fishing. But okay, sure. Good. Okay, well, excellent. Well, tell us a little bit about what it is that y'all do.
So we offer a guide service for fly fishing and hiking, actually, within the within the 2-hour radius of Charlotte. And we typically take beginners or advanced anglers to a select group of streams that we guide regularly. Okay. And try to have everyone have a good time and
and we fully outfit them with all the gear that they're going to need. Okay. So waders and boots are wet wading in the warmer months, but you don't need to have any gear to come with us. We've got all the rod, reel, tackle, everything. Excellent. So just the fishing license and a good attitude and a good time. Yeah.
All right. Well, excellent. Well, yeah, and so I actually had the opportunity to go fishing with Nick and Sara recently, and as a non-trout fishing person, never having fly fished before, I can speak to the truth in that they do. They provide everything you need, and it's a great opportunity. And I didn't have to know anything. I just kind of went out, and they showed me, taught me how to use the gear, doing the casts. I won't say like I left like a professional, but I felt confident, with the instruction that I got, I felt confident to get out there and catch some fish. And so, it was great. So how did y'all get started actually trout fishing? And then we'll talk about kind of how you moved from that into guiding, but how did you started going after trout?
So I guess that would begin with me. I, from a teenager, had always been in streams with a spin rod and had been with friends fishing up in Stone Mountain State Park. And we just kind of learned the area, and I'd never picked up a fly rod, not until probably later years. And the first time I picked it up was just an old Walmart rod. And not knowing what I was doing at all, threw that thing down really quick and went back to the spin rod. And then we ended up taking a few family trips with your family, that is, and got more interested in it and learned more and more about fly fishing and decided that was what we were going to fish with regularly. So
my dad kind of got us started into it because he loved to golf. Always brought my sister and I golfing with him, and then that turned into fly fishing, and then suddenly all the family vacations were centered around great fishing spots.
Okay, well I kind of like this idea for family vacation.
I think that we really liked it, but her mother did not enjoy it as much, seeing that she was not a fly fisherman.
Mom brings a good book. Yeah, she enjoys the stream side with a good book.
Okay.
That's okay.
Well, that's good. Yeah, well, that's fine. There's one in every crowd.
Yeah. She's a good sport.
So how did you end up moving from just recreationally fishing to saying hey, I want to do this as a guide service?
So we took a trip up to West Virginia, and we decided that it was going to be a fly fishing trip, and saw a young couple and really were inspired by them. And they were probably a little bit older than us and had kind of the same backgrounds as we did, in a sense, with hospitality and being in the community and things like that. And just decided that trip, I think about right after we got back, I said, I really want to put my focus into maybe turning this into something that I would like to do to show others that it's enjoyable and there's peace and tranquility in it. So that's kind of how we got.
Good. Yeah. That's neat. You see people doing something and you think, kind of have this aha moment. You think, I could be doing that. So now that you've kind of made that transition, now you're guiding. Do do you feel like now that's rewarding? Like, do you have these rewarding moments, like where you're like, yeah, I'm doing the right thing here?
So, yeah, I feel that before this, my job was not very purposeful, I guess.
Okay.
So you wouldn't get very much purpose out of a daily routine. But now as we guide, it's really nice to see a person progress through the stages of beginner of the day of never knowing anything about picking up the fly rod and teaching them the basics of the line, the leader, the flies that we're using, what we're doing, how to read water, things like that. And that's very fulfilling and someone learning as the day goes on, I feel.
Sure.
I think too, like a lot of people maybe have a misconception that as a guide you're going to be doing a lot of fishing, and it's 100% the opposite. You are not picking up the fly rod to go fishing. Is all in the hand of the guest. So you know, we were like, would we like this if we're not actually going to be the one fishing?
There's a big difference in like catching fish yourself and watching someone else catch fish. But.
Yeah, and that's the thing that Nick has said is, you know, and both of us I feel like have found is so even more rewarding to watch somebody, you know, you've been teaching them these basics and fundamentals, and then they hook a fish, and that probably is more of a rush than landing one yourself at some point, and that's pretty cool.
And it is. That was one of my own personal questions to myself. Am I going to really enjoy the agony of sitting there wanting to fish while someone else is fishing?
Right.
And it was actually the opposite. I thoroughly enjoy the guiding more than I do the fishing now.
Okay.
It's, you know, not something that, and that might just be from our very young business. It's, you know, been established. But I really like the guiding part of it. It's really intriguing to watch a person and their morals and how they do things, and then try to teach them different things to shape them into a fly fishing angler.
Right. Well, I guess if you're looking at, you know, the progression of the angler, you're seeing I don't know, I want to say like a finished product, but you're seeing progress being made. And I think in a lot of different careers and things, it's difficult to see like something being built. Like if you're in the construction business, like you can see a house being built, but like sometimes you know, like you can see progress. Well, like you're talking about, like with an angler, you know, you see somebody move from, you know, not knowing anything to, you know, catching some fish, and it's like, okay, like there's something, like I helped to do that. You know, it's something that you can kind of take, you know, pride in an accomplishment.
It's a very rewarding feeling when, you know, not everyone that we take does this, but there are many guests that come back, and most of them have my phone numbers just through communication and things like that, but they'll go and be outfitted and then find a place that they really enjoy going to, and then they start sending you photos of the fish that they're catching on their own, and it's very rewarding to see them progress as even
that's cool
starting their journey on that.
Speaking of the folks that you take out, so you're taking what kind of types of individuals, or just?
So we typically take people, I mean, that's never done it, to people that have been doing it for, you know, years and just want to learn a new place. It's not their typical place that they go to or something like that. And we'll take kids sometimes.
I was going to ask about like the ages. I mean, is this something that would be suitable for like 12 and up, or would it? So
the youngest that we have taken so far, I believe, is 9.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
It all depends on how their interest is in it, how much they want to be involved.
Okay.
And that's really a good thing for
their listening skills.
Yeah, their listening skills, and just how much they want to be involved in it in general. But I believe the 9-year-old was very good and very attentive,
and awesome.
We had a really good time, and I think about after 4 hours, which is a half day, he was good to go. Which was a really good thing on the kind of wife-husband dynamic. I believe that we took his father as well. So it was a 2-person day, and we had Sarah there to kind of help. You know,
I took the boy, and Nick took the dad, and we were tag teaming a little bit, but it was fun to do the thing in tandem, and I think probably the important thing with taking kids is realizing the expectation might be different for that day.
Okay, right, yeah.
Yeah, you may have an idea in your head of what the fishing day is going to be like, but it's really about making memories for the kid and tailoring that to them and to the the entire experience. So I don't know that I don't think there's an age limit. I think it's it's fun to get kids on the water. 9 seemed like a good place to start, just to kind of get the basics and learn what you're doing. But even just being outside is fun.
Right, that's a win right there. And I mean, that's one of the things I noticed about like when I went fishing with you. Now we caught fish. Okay, don't take this the wrong way. We did catch fish. But another big part of it too was the scenery. I mean, you're out in God's beautiful creation. I mean, there's mountains, rocks, rivers. The day we went, and I'll try to include some clips here with this if you're watching this on the the video version. But it was snowing the day that we went fishing.
It was. It was a bit chilly.
It was a little bit chilly. But chilly and beautiful at the same time. I mean, it was great. We were out, fishing. You've got flurries coming down around you, and so I mean that the environment I think is a big part of it. Just getting outside, and there's kind of an exercise component to it too. I mean, you're getting fresh air. You're
battling the river stream flowing down.
Exactly.
In the elements for sure.
So one of the things I noticed when I went with you is, and I've not been on very many guided fishing trips, but this was the first one I was ever on where I had like a husband and wife team. And I thought it was interesting how that played out. So there's kind of like a his role, her role, which I'm sure is not the same every time you go out. But could you talk a little bit about that? I mean, how you kind of work in tandem?
How do we work in tandem?
Well, being a husband and wife, you learn each other.
Yeah.
I assume you know each other's strengths, each other's weaknesses, and you try to help each other, grow each one of them. And we kind of have gotten down a dynamic, I guess, as you'd say, of who's going to do what and when it's going to happen and what is the best way to make those things happen and who's probably the better at it.
It's all really about giving the guest a streamlined, smooth experience and provide that for them. So if we kind of keep those roles defined, the other person is there, maybe one person's primarily guiding, the other one's spotting fish, the other one's rigging up the next rod. It's all kind of in balance so that it's just the best experience possible for the angler.
Yeah, like I thought it was great. Like when I went, and I can appreciate this because we get lots of snags, and trout fishing was not any different in that I did hang a few trees, and so as I would hang a tree, I would just kind of hand it to Nick, and he would try to get it loose, and sometimes it just didn't come loose, and we'd end up breaking something off, and he would just take the broken off rod, just hand it to Sarah. She'd hand him a new one that was already rigged up, ready to go, and we're back fishing, and that was great. That was such a time savings and just a convenience factor, and just to have that. And I noticed also when we went, Nick did a lot of the teaching, which was great, and I felt like he was that was really him working in his element, teaching. But then I noticed you were misprepared. So you had the thermos with the hot chocolate and the chili and the folding table and the tablecloth and the dishes and drop the tailgate, let's have a full spread here, we're gonna have some lunch. And it's where did that come from? And so I thought that was really cool how you put all that together and kind of each of you kind of taking a different but complementary role. So
there's a lot of behind the scenes in the truck that people don't see as we get there. Okay, we're gonna do this. Okay, we're gonna do this. Tomorrow we're thinking of this. Things like that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of preparation beforehand.
And I think it's fun to get to the end of the day too. We're kind of sitting together afterward and recalling the day to do that as husband and wife is pretty rewarding as well.
Right.
That went really well, or how could we change that? And that's special
kind of building.
Too.
Yeah, I could tell. I mean, I could tell that you put a lot of thought and prep into it, and just for instance, the pre-trip. So when we decided that we were going to go together, like what I really thought was cool, like I got the email with the Google form, and that was so cool. It's like, okay, so, here's some lunch options, here, what's your shoe size? We're going to have, waiters for you, and like just all these different things so that like the guest, like communications or expectations are communicated, and like you've really put together like a neat thing to be able to get all that collected and be able to make that that day even more like it's even better.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say we kind of needed all the info. It's the easiest way to do it. So I'm really glad to hear that you liked that on the other side of it.
Yeah, I'm a
just to be
Google
most
Forms.
prepared.
Yeah,
right.
I love those. Yeah, we use those a good bit. No, it seemed like it was a very efficient way, but it was just very thoughtful. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
It's just like the checklist we send you. There's a checklist that we go through ourselves behind the scenes to make those things happen for your day, your experience.
Yeah. That's cool. No, and I think I like the idea of the reflective practicing type of component. Like you're after the trip, you're unpacking that, and you're saying, okay, well, how did that go? Like, could we have done that better? And I mean, obviously we can overanalyze sometimes, and there's things that are outside our control. But like, I think that's cool. I mean, that you're reflecting on like, well, what would make this a better experience next time?
Yeah, and every person's different too. Every trip is going to be different. So
sure.
Things happen, things come up, and so
I believe that's one of the first questions that I normally ask every guest is, what are your expectations for the trip? What do you plan on getting out of this? And whether it be teaching or learning what we're doing technique-wise, casting-wise, or some just say, I want to catch fish.
Right,
and that's what we'll do. I mean, it's kind of tailored to what the person wants to do.
Totally.
Well, like speaking of catching fish, like, and there may be some people listening that really don't know, like when we're talking North Carolina mountain trout fishing, like what kinds of fish are we going after here?
So typically in the streams that we fish are stocked by the state.
Okay.
So they would be deemed delayed harvest.
Okay.
Which is fish are put in from October to June. And then you can only catch and release those fish during that time. Okay. And the average fish is normally in that section. I mean, their average fish is 10 inches and up. Okay. So they will dump thousands of fish into the streams, and their select streams, they've got markers on them. Each marker tells what you can use in the stream, whether it be single hook, no artificial bait, things of that nature. And then some of the streams, there are only certain times that you can fish in them, and those markers will be on the trees.
The little triangular markers.
Remember
I've seen those.
Designations.
Okay, good. Yeah, because I think for some people that can seem a little confusing when maybe if you've never done it before, but I think, like what you're saying, I noticed to be true that they're well marked. Okay, these streams are well marked. You see the signs, and the sign does a good job of communicating what you can fish for, when, and like whether it's delayed harvest or whatever, and those things are easily like if the sign doesn't make sense, they're easily Googleable.
And the North Carolina Wildlife also has a very good system on their website to show what each marker means and what you can do as well. So
where you can find each one, the classification of each stream.
You can find that on ncwildlife.org.
Right, the ncwildlife.org is really cool because it actually has the interactive map where you can see the colors of the streams and see, okay, this is delayed harvest, or this is So that I think that's great. That's very helpful because it, like I said, it can seem kind of confusing, but so you've got so you're going after stock trout, and those are like a mix of what, Brooks, Browns, and Rainbows?
Correct.
Is that correct?
That is correct.
Hey, I learned something on this trip.
I'm proud of you.
And I'm trying to think. So when we were out, I know we caught Browns and Rainbows. I'm not sure if we caught a Brook or not.
Caught a Brook that
did
day.
we? Maybe
I don't think so.
We did
I
not.
don't think we did.
We did it.
Browns and Rainbows.
So the brooks. So the brook trout are the one that have the little white kind of on the leading edge of the fins. Is that?
Depending on the time of year and whether they're spawning or not, they can be different colors. And
Okay.
The brook trout is actually North Carolina's only native trout.
Okay.
So the only trout that is native to our state or this area is the brook trout.
The brook trout.
The others were introduced at other times, and we have enjoyed catching them. So
Right.
we're glad they're
all
here.
of them.
Yeah, exactly. So now I know you said the minimum size for most of these stockfish, was it the minimum size is 10 or the average size is 10?
So yeah, it takes typically around a year for a fish to go from a egg in the hatchery, which there's 2 in North Carolina that they pull from, and they will go from an egg to about 10 inches or so. But there are also fish in there that are way bigger, up to 20 some odd inches.
Right.
And some of those are put in there at different times, so reaching the end of their lifespan, or they're reaching to a point where they're not breeding fish anymore, and they will go in the streams as well with the regular stock trout.
And every once in a while, folks like us get lucky and hook one.
Oh yeah.
I saw the picture when we were out. The stream we were fishing in. Yeah, that was awesome. That was a beast of a fish that your guy caught.
He was he had a really good day. I think he had 2 really nice fish that day. So he was ready to go home after the last one. He said, "It's not going to get any better than this."
Right. It only goes downhill from here. Okay. Well, great. So I think a lot of these questions we've answered already, but so one of the things that came up, when we were out was not only were you like showing the different casts and things, which I had no idea, like how to do the roll cast, the water haul, what was the other one?
Just to pick up and lay down.
Pick up and lay down. Yeah. So there's some. So I didn't know any of that. But part of it also, there was like an educational aspect as far as the like what we would call the stewardship aspect. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So we have recently went via the state of North Carolina, Visit NC, to a certification that was put on by them and Leave No Trace, which is Subaru, and pretty much it taught us how to be instructors, to be good stewards to our land for the state of North Carolina.
Okay.
So we have furthered our education in trying to create that memorable moment to be as beneficial to our resources as we could.
Okay.
So teaching people what are the best ways to take care of our land by picking up trash, or teaching respect of other people, or things that are involved with being on a stream, and also teaching how detrimental even the smallest things could be to our environment for conservation and stewardship. But we were very lucky to be invited to that, and to be one of the first guides in North Carolina to be kind of the ambassadors of stewardship for the state of North Carolina.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think any of us that have spent any time out, along our public rivers and lakes and streams, kind of see the need for this when we look in. You see the trash, you see the wrappers, you see the junk that gets left behind, and sometimes you look at that and you think, all right, this should just be common sense. People should clean up after themselves, but I don't know, for them to call it common sense, sometimes I don't think it's all that common. But
and that's part of our job as these stewards now, is to kind of teach what morals and values we all should be following. The 7 principles, 7 key principles is what we like to call them, and they are all over the place now. The Leave No Trace kind of act is catching on with Boy Scouts, with Subaru, and things like that. So they're placing these principles all across the board, where everyone can kind of determine what is good and what is bad, and give some people some information that maybe they didn't even know about.
And too, it's important mainly because obviously it's important to take care of the resources that we have so that other people can use them, and so we can enjoy them, even as our home base. But the point really that the whole program was pushing was, of course, good stewardship, but mostly because, the guide is the first person. If somebody is traveling in and wants to experience North Carolina and fly fishing and what makes it so great, you have the opportunity as the guide to be the person that influences how that guest is going to take care of our state's resources. So, balancing tourism is a huge industry for our state. So how do we balance, the economic side and the good that it can bring to communities with also, the human impact, and balancing that sustainably so that we can continue to share this resource with other folks and enjoy it ourselves. And it's a balancing act for sure.
Yeah, that's important. Well, good. Well, listen, I'm glad that you're able to to use the guide trips and be able to both be a good ambassador for our state and also take care of the resources so that future generations can enjoy them as well.
Absolutely.
Okay, so now let's talk about someone like myself who wants to get started and just kind of wants to learn how to catch North Carolina mountain trout. What's a good way to get started?
So I think we mentioned earlier the ncwildlife.org is
Mm-hmm.
very helpful in places and what you can use and things like that. And Google and YouTube, obviously, everyone has opinion, but there's also good information and good resources that you can find. But our biggest resource is pretty much local guide shop. I have came in very good relations with, and it is in downtown Statesville. And it's called Carolina Mountain Sports. There's a gentleman there, the owner. He's very informative, will help you very much so if you have any questions. But it's been very helpful as in having someone that has been in the industry before, and I know he's going to watch this eventually, but he has unknowingly became my mentor for the past couple of years, and that's what I'm going to call him because he has and taught me very well. But if anyone were to have any questions, I feel that the sport is very willing, most people are, to share their information, and we're willing to share our information. You don't have to really hire us. If you have a question or anything, you can email us or anything.
Oh, excellent. Oh, that's great. I think that's important. I think there are certain types of fishing where people tend to be maybe a little less than helpful, a little more tight-lipped. But
I think that's been the great thing. Obviously, there are people in the sport that like to keep their secrets, and but just we want it to be accessible to people. Like people were gracious enough to share with us when we were getting started, and so the more that you can share it with the next person, the more it grows, the more you have in the community of the fly fishing community. And Richard's spot, Carolina Mountain Sports, it's a great place because you walk in and you're going to get a true answer on what you want to start with. Fly fishing is as complicated as you want to make it. So he'll help you get set with the right thing, and you can ask all the questions you want, and he's an open book. He really is. And
I believe another resource that we had was when we first started this, we became part of a club. I mean, there's multiple fly fishing clubs, one being Carolina Fly Fishing Club, which we meet once a month at Concord Mills. And it's a membership club, but you can also come to the meetings, and they have a speaker every month. Actually, we're the speakers for February. This coming February, so it'll be on Valentine's Day.
Come have
well, that's like a date night right there.
And they found it very fitting, seeing that we're a couple that guided and fly fish together. But there's that, and just like Ducks Unlimited, there's Trout Unlimited, and they have sanctions as well that you can meet and join a meeting and things like that as well.
And they do events and publications and casting clinics and all sorts of resources to plug into.
Destination trips, all kinds of things.
Excellent.
Plenty of meetups and groups as well. Women on the Fly is a great organization too. So lots of different ways to get connected and learn from other people, and you don't have to be trying to figure this out on your own for sure.
Because I know, just like not having done it before, I think one of the most intimidating things for me was like the casts, and so it's encouraging to know that like there's help out there.
Yeah.
So you can like, of course you can YouTube it and that kind of thing, but sometimes it's nice just to know that there's like real live people that you can, ask questions to, and are going to help you, with some good solid advice.
Yeah.
So yeah. Well, speaking of that, so we talked a little bit about like mentorship. I think that's cool. Kind of having somebody that you could ask questions to, and then you talked about the you said it was the Carolina Fly. What was the name? What was the name of the store?
Carolina Mountain Sports.
Carolina Mountain Sports.
Yes.
So like you can go to a place like that, and and they're helpful. So that's great. That does bring up another question. I feel like like a lot of different types of fishing, you can probably spend a whole lot of money on this if you want to. Okay.
Just like you can learn as much as you want, or make it as complicated as
Okay.
you want. You can spend as much as you want, or spend as little as you want.
So I guess like if somebody like myself just starting out, like what would be a good setup, like a good like entry level kind of thing, and then if you want to talk about it, like what would be get confident with that, like what would be a good like step up or something like that. And
that's one of the I guess the benefits of finding this little store in Statesville, and Richard Griggs, the gentleman that owns it, he's a no pressure salesman pretty much, but he only will sell you what he feels that you need.
Okay.
And you could start just a whole kit. It's a combo kit, something like an Echo rod and reel.
Okay.
It comes in, its own pack. You're thinking around $200, and then you can go up to spending $1,000 or so dollars on just a rod.
Sure.
So it's a very big jump in between.
Right.
But go in and talk, and he kind of talk with you, and you pretty much see what you want and what you need at that point. But it's really not expensive to get started. Okay. And you only need a few things to get started: a rod, reel, maybe a set of hemostats, and maybe a bag or a couple flies and things like that. Just a few things to kind of get you going until you learn what you do want.
Okay.
As far as specifics, the 9-foot 5-weight rod tends to be the bread and butter, the starting point. It's it's a good middle of the road kind of rod to fish the streams around here, especially for trout. So then once you kind of get into it and see what you like and what kind of fishing you like to do, maybe you really like going for smallmouth or something like that. So you're gonna go for maybe a little heavier weight rod, or maybe you like blue lining a lot and going up and finding some wild trout. So you might want something a little smaller, a little lighter. It's really tailored to how geeked out you want to get on it. But 9-foot 5-weight tends to be the first start, and you can go from there. It's pretty multi-purpose.
Any stream in North Carolina can be
versatile.
fished with a 9-foot 5-weight.
Okay, and I think that's what we were using when we went out. And they were the TFOs or something like that?
Yeah, we use Temple Fork Outfitter TFO for our rods, and we have Lamson reels for our reels. But they're about the middle of the road. They're not $1,000 rod, but they're not our $200 rods. We want someone that is going with us that has fished before to feel like they have a really significant piece of equipment in their hands to make that experience.
Yeah. It's not the Walmart.
I
understand.
That's the other thing too about having a guide is you're trying out gear that you may want to consider for yourself one day. So getting the feel of it. Do I like this? Do I like this reel? Do I like having this vest on me, or do I just want to pack? That sort of thing. That's all something that you're trying out the gear before you really make the investment yourself.
Okay. As you're talking, it just kind of made me think about, you're talking about the, like the day I went with you, we were fishing for, trout, and, we used the 9-foot 5-weight rod. But you mentioned smallmouth fishing. So tell me a little bit about that. Is that an option?
So eventually, yes. With us, eventually, the past summer, we have been very fortunate to float down the New River on our kayaks mostly every weekend through July, and we have been picking up tips, tricks, techniques, learning how smallmouth work, how, their structures, their habitats, which is in a stream not too much different than a trout, but they do put up a nice fight.
Yeah, they do.
And through the summer, it's really hard to fish for trout because of them being kind of a colder weather season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to fish for trout during the summer, you want to go to a higher elevation.
Okay.
Probably start fishing for some of the, more wild native fish up in the higher country, just because you don't want to stress out any of the fish or holdovers.
Mm-hmm.
The stocking has also changed then too, so they're not stocking like they do.
Okay.
They don't stock like they do. There might be some holdovers just from the stocking, but you don't want to put too much pressure on them unless you're going to take them out and keep them at that point.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah. But yeah, smallmouth is fun on a fly rod.
That would be great. Yeah,
I've
only caught a couple smallmouth in my life, like and they were on like an ultralight setup, and that was so much fun. I could see where that would be a lot of fun on a fly rod.
They're a good fight.
You go from a 5-weight to an 8-weight. You really got something with some substantial, weight force in your hand. It's nice to.
We usually stick with the top water too. Is kind of our favorite over that summertime, and man, they just.
It's fun.
So what kind of So now you're talking So you're fishing like a topwater plug of some sort on a fly rod?
We like to fish either a stealth bomber or a boogle bug is what they're called. And this looks like a big fluorescent white or yellow.
Okay.
I mean, hard shell. It looks almost like a beetle or something, I guess, in a sense. Yeah. But it's got a little bit of fluff on the back of it. And
but that would be cool to watch them come up and eat that.
Lay it out there and wait, and then wait a little bit more.
They're just hanging out. I mean, they're all over the place, but when you get them in that shallow water and just right up on the bank and they take it, it's awesome.
Oh, that would be fun.
Yeah.
It's pretty much, those things are meant to try to get their attention with a splash.
Yeah.
So let it hit the water hard and let it sit there, and maybe let it grab their attention.
That would be fun.
Little noise if you pull it. Yeah.
Well, I didn't even think about the fishing for smallmouth. I think that could be fun.
Yeah.
Maybe one summer we go for the New River.
I think that would be good. I am all for that. So you were talking about like during the summer months, maybe giving the trout a break, or you may have to change tactics or whatever. Kind of maybe ask this question about like the seasonal nature. So, I mean, what can kind of what might a guide trip look like? Through the 4 different seasons of the year, like what would you be going after?
The fish's diet will change obviously throughout the year, so we might use a different fly through winter compared to what we use, spring or when spawning's happening or something like that. And we might fish different places when fish are spawning because we don't want to typically interrupt nature at that point.
Sure.
Just to give them a break to reproduce if there are any wild and things like that. But it could change typically, from what we wear. Summertime, we do a lot of wet wading where you had the waders on during winter. Summertime, we'll put just the boots on and you'll be able to feel the water and walk through it. And it's, things like that will change, of course.
Fish activity too, obviously, just the colder temperature, where they're hiding out, where to find them, their activity level and maybe aggressiveness, and what they're gonna eat, and really how careful you have to be to make that look like something that they want to take. If they're gonna expend that energy, how's that presentation looking? So maybe it's a little more technical throughout the seasons, but that's the beauty of having the guide. Let's tie this on and explain that, and here's how you do it. Yeah,
that's good. Well, but pretty much like you can go after trout with you all doing a guided trip like pretty much any time of the year, or do you? Yeah,
pretty much any time of the year. Location might change, but we try to make it where you can go at any time. And have a decent time with us. It might be a little bit higher in the elevation. We might have to drive a little bit further, but we try to make
hike
it
in a little bit.
Hike in a little bit, maybe get away from some people a little bit sometimes.
So I noticed like when I met you, of course we're sitting here now. We're in Rowan County, which is we don't have mountains here, and we don't actually have trout here.
Yeah. But
it doesn't seem like we really have to go far to get into them. So like how far? I mean, like how far up do we need to go before we start finding trout?
So I'd say the closest to us for trout fishing, is a very wonderful place, Stone Mountain State Park. It's kind of where I'd say we cut our teeth. Because it's so close. And after a day of work, if you get off a little early, you can make it there in an hour. Hour 15 from Rowan County.
Right, okay.
And then the Mitchell River up in Dobson. So it's a little bit closer. It's probably a little less than an hour or right at an hour.
Really? Wow. Yeah. I didn't think we could get any that close.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's kind of why we love what we do and why we got started, is because there are fantastic guides all across the state, and you should definitely check them out because those are their own unique experiences.
Right.
Western to Eastern North Carolina. But we wanted to just go on the weekend because we've got this new fly rod and we want to go exploring. And but we don't have, a week to take off work or even, a long weekend all the time. So we just want to go out on a Saturday. Where can we go? That's important for people to know if they're wanting to get into this, and they live in the, greater Charlotte area. And that's accessible for a day trip with the family or even just to explore on your own. That's something that we want to provide.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, one of the things I've learned since living here is that, I mean, you have such a wide variety of fishing opportunities in the state. And a lot of people think, Outer Banks, they think surf fishing, which is great, and I love it. But like, as you move this way, I mean, there are fishing opportunities in every part of the state. Yeah. And like a big portion of our state's covered with mountains and trout streams.
Yeah.
So,
it's really nice to be centrally located. You're a couple hours from the beach, a couple hours from the mountains.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Kind of take advantage of different things at different times, and you don't get bored.
Yeah. And there's some awesome trout fishing in North Carolina, obviously. And so for us to be, truly an hour away from that, that's pretty fun. Yeah,
that's great. Well, I think, so is there anything trout fishing related that maybe you'd like to talk about that I maybe haven't set you up to say or to talk about?
I say, if someone's considering why would I pick up a fly rod over a spin rod, which is totally fine. You do what you want to do, but I'm telling you, if you pick up the fly rod, you're not going to want to put it down. Part of what, for me at least drew me to it is it kind of gets your mind away from everything else. You're thinking about the stream, you're thinking about your fly, you're tying that on, you're casting it and letting it drift, and there's really no time to think about anything else except what you're doing. And just the rhythm of it just kind of, for me, is a stress relief and kind of puts me in a new zone, a new mindset. Yes, very relaxing. It really just puts you, like you were saying, in the heart of nature and kind of reframes your mind for the afternoon.
I think what drew me to the whole sport in general was the technicality of it and how it could be, like hunting almost in a sense. You're not just going out and casting into an open lake and watching a bobber. Sometimes you can see the fish and you watch them top and you see where they're at in the water column and what might possibly get their attention at that point and
or what they're rejecting.
Yeah, sometimes they'll go just right around it and just trying to fish for a fish. It's fishing at that point. Yeah. You're learning. You learn their qualities, what they want, things like that, and how smart of a animal they can be, and sometimes how unsmart they can, and they take your hook. So.
I think I heard someone say one time just how like in tune you are with nature with in the stream. Fly fishing is like you are standing in the middle of the stream and the water is rushing by you and you're feeling that, and you're holding a fish in your hands. I mean, you're so connected. And I'm sure you could get that with a spin rod too, but just for us, fly fishing has been just totally hits the nail on the head for that one.
I think some of the times we're out there, we always use the phrase, sometimes fishing isn't fishing. So like you said in the beginning, kind of enjoying nature and what was given to us to kind of sit there and even just stop and talk with your guide or talk with us is part of the trip. It's really nice to, even you see animal or you see something, you see more nature on a stream than what
totally.
you expected.
Right. Yeah, I love that part about fishing. I mean, sometimes it's sometimes it's catching fish. Sometimes it's catching fish and like seeing bald eagles or otters or
snow.
I saw a flock of ducks or or snow or really cool sunrise or sunset or just getting out in this marvelous creation and just enjoying it. I mean, North Carolina just has such a great like natural beauty. I mean, from the mountains to the ocean, it's just such a beautiful state, and I say that having grown up in Ohio, which is it's pretty flat and boring and cold. This is great. I just love it. There's just so much to do here, so many different unique experiences. But and I don't know if there's anything else you guys want to share. Feel free to, if you and if you don't mind, just let everybody know, like, what's the good way to get in touch with you, and like if they want to book a trip or want to get some advice or
we've got a book a trip or just advice. We've got a contact us form on our website, ncriversandridges.com.
Okay.
And you can find us on Facebook and Instagram as well.
Okay.
We try to post
Rivers and Ridges.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We try to post as frequently as we can and kind of show people what we're doing and what we've got coming up for the year and things like that, and what we really want to do with our business. And we try to keep people informed, and we're doing more and more of it as our business grows.
Okay. Well, excellent. Well, listen, this has been a privilege for me to sit and talk with you and to go fishing with you too. That was such a wonderful experience, and I'm looking forward to doing that again.
Yeah.
And so
for smallmouth.
For smallmouth, yes.
There you go.
I see a float trip happening here. So.
Me too.
We'll be there.
All right, so we'll be hitting some of you guys up here for a kayak.
Right.
Here, so. I think with that we'll go ahead and sign off. Again, this is Jason with Brilliant Fishing. It's been a pleasure this evening to talk with Nick and Sara Freeman of NC Rivers and Ridges. Thanks for watching.